How many times do I need to tell you guys? It's game week, and we're fired up about it right here on Cover Crimson. Get the comments going. We want to hear from you guys. We're going to talk about the communicators. This is the first year where you can actually have headset communications, just like our headsets, and it's going to be Malachi Moore. But also, don't forget about Deontay Lawson and the veterans on this defense. We're going to hear from Kane Womack. We're going to talk about the MVPs of this defense, who we think is going to have a big year, and why Alabama is a contender to repeat as SEC champs and win the national championship. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up, and let's get this party started. He's Clint Lamb, and I'm Mick Gillispie, and it is time for your favorite show and ours. I hope it is. We're going to make it your favorite show and ours. Here we go. We are live. There he is, Clint Lamb, and I'm Mick Gillispie. CoverCrimson.com, and the show's brought to you by MyBookie. Don't forget about MyBookie. This show is brought to you by them. They're our title sponsor, MyBookie. Use the promo code NEXTROUND to double your initial deposit. That's right, MyBookie will double your initial deposit when you use the code NEXTROUND. Kick off the football season with MyBookie.ag and double your initial deposit by using the promo code NEXTROUND. And we're going to tell you why you need to put your money on Alabama. Sorry, Clint, I'm all in on this team.
Apologies for what? What's the apology for?
Because I know Nick Saban picked Alabama to end up like somewhere besides first or second playing the title game. The experts are telling us that Bama's on the slide. We even had some Tennessee fans yesterday in here talking smack. And I mean, the last time I looked, Tennessee, like the Tennessee was like 1-16 against Alabama in the last 17. And you guys in the comments section, Mimi, yeah, thank you. Bob, roll tide to you, man. Joseph, roll tide. Chris, roll tide. And we appreciate all you guys too for hanging out with us. But let's get into this right away, Clint. First off, give me your initial thoughts on the defense, and then let me pull up this clip by Kane Womack talking about the communicators on this team.
I think it's going to be a fun defense to watch, and I think there's some question marks, but as we've talked about all offseason, there's talent and there's solutions. It's just a matter of determining, who goes where, what the pecking order at some of these positions looks like. Allowing some of these young guys to probably overcome some early, hiccups or struggles. I'm sure there's going to be some growing pains for some of these guys, whether it be at cornerback, maybe some of these pass rushers, at Wolf, if they're getting quite a bit of action. I think that this is, if you're talking about all three levels, talent-wise, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more talented defense if everything hits. Now, some of these guys, like I said, they're underclassmen. So are you talking about a bunch of highly regarded prospects in the 2025 NFL draft? Maybe not, but it's going to be fun to watch. And there are some draft eligible players who could end up really climbing draft boards and end up, being a day one or day two draft pick. So just whether you talk about Kane Womack, whether you talk about the players, it's a really good combination. I can't wait to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But let me pull Kane up, and then I want to talk about Malachi Moore and Deontay Lawson. But here's what he said yesterday at the press conference. And as you guys hang out with us, make sure you give us a thumbs up. That's a way of saying roll tide.
It's a great question. Well, when you have a guy like Malachi Moore, you really set the standard in terms of the leadership. I think when you talk about leadership and being a person that emulates what it's supposed to look like, right, leading by example, he is one of the hardest workers that I've ever seen in practice every single day, whether it's a workout, whether it's a walkthrough, whether it's a practice. He really has sets the standard of what it's supposed to look like, down in and down out, play in and play out. When he goes to the sideline, he's constantly communicating with other guys on the defense about what we need to fix, what we saw out there in real time. Him and Deontay Lawson, I think, are truly special communicators that have had a lot of experience in this defense. But when you add guys like Jihad Campbell, who have been here, but maybe have not had the rep base of experience like those guys, I think he's done a tremendous job. But particularly on the back end, I think Keon Sabb has been phenomenal. His ability, I was so impressed even with week one. when he got here and we started doing some little walkthroughs and meetings and all that kind of stuff, his retention of our defense, and now he's starting to play with anticipation. He's communicating at a high level, and if you can keep up with Malachi Moore, I think that's a pretty great job there.
All right, there you go. And I love hearing that. Like, if you can keep up with Malachi Moore, that's a pretty good job. And this was one of the guys that stayed, that could have gone to the NFL. You know, obviously could have followed everyone else and transferred out from that secondary with the Pied Piper that went over to Georgia. But you know what? They decided to stick it out with Alabama. And I met the guy during the offseason. Not only is he a great football player, but I'm going to tell you this, Clint, he's a great dude. I mean, he's just a great dude. I love this guy, and I love what he brings to the team.
Yeah, he's a fun guy. You know, you can tell that he's very passionate about what he does. You know, obviously being in Tuscaloosa for as long as he has, I mean, half a decade now, he's seen some things. He's seen some highs. He was part of that 2020 national championship team. He's seen some, you know, I say lows, like, you know, not making the college football playoff, losing 2 games in a season by combined, 3 points. So it's not like the lows have been as low as maybe other programs, but he's seen some pretty rough times. If you're, you know, an Alabama player, an Alabama team, obviously losing Nick Saban, I'm sure that's been a tough transition, but Kane Womack and what he brings to the table, I'm sure that's been, you know, about as good as you could have asked for as far as replacement options. But I found it interesting because Deontay Lawson was asked about the communication and just how big it is to have somebody like Malachi Moore behind him. And, you know, he brought up the fact that, hey, it's nice not having to turn around and make sure that the secondary is on the same page with all the rest of us. That is kind of Malachi Moore's job, and he's going to be the main communicator. But then you got, you know, Deontay Lawson, who's kind of handling all that front seven stuff, guys who are in the box. So when you've got 2 different players covering the 3 levels as far as kind of navigating guys, getting them in the right position, I think that's so important from a communication standpoint, especially when you combine that with the complementary communicators like Kane Womack brought up with Keon Sabb in the secondary and Jahad Campbell on the second level. So I think, you know, as you're making this transition, and you do have all new players, especially in the secondary, communication is going to be absolutely crucial. And it seems like Alabama's done a pretty good job with that based off of what Womack said, what Lawson said. And so that's really encouraging for a first year, you know, defense under Kane Womack.
Yeah. And the other thing that I love about what we're seeing is that Kane Womack had to go out and rebuild the cornerback spot, right? And you move, you know, obviously you move Malachi Moore to the safety spot, but you have a lot of experience in between the corners and the safeties, and I think that that's really big for this defense.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, just Malachi Moore, man, such an interesting player, because when I watch him, I don't know that you have day 1 or day 2 upside. You know, I'm speaking candidly. I think, you know, the lack of long speed, you know, he's got some deep range, but does he have that sideline to sideline range? You know, obviously not going to be as good in man coverage, the short area quickness. I think it's going to be beneficial for him that they moved him from that star, or what's known now as the Husky position, back to safety, because you don't have as much man cover responsibilities. And, you know, I think that helps him because that was kind of a weakness. But from a run fit perspective, he's very physical coming downhill. He's a willing tackler. He's a good open field tackler. And just in today's NFL, having a guy like that with that kind of versatility, he can play that star Husky nickel position. He can play free safety, strong safety. And just, I think that will really help him as far as his draft, you know, where he ends up getting drafted. But, you know, I don't know that it'll ever be like a day 1 or even a day 2, you know, ceiling. But you need these types of players. Like, he's going to be so vital. He's a really good college defensive back. He's got great understanding of the game, football IQ, everything that you want in a defensive back, except for maybe that high-end elite athleticism. But he makes up for it with a lot of other positive attributes. And just the fact that he's stuck around, the fact that he's getting to play a different position, I think that's going to be huge for him. And I think it's going to be big for Alabama's defense. And then when you start looking at some of these other guys, I mean, like I said, there's players at all 3 levels. And I can't say enough good things about not only what they have from a starting perspective, but at most spots, what they have from a depth perspective. You know, the interior of the defensive line looks deep. Wolf looks like it could be up to a 3-man rotation. We talk about Justin Jefferson providing another starting caliber linebacker on the second level. You talk about King Mack and the fact that he could provide some depth at either Husky or safety. You talk about Red Morgan and the fact that he looks like he could be a first-year contributor at that Husky spot. So really, it's just the corners, and there are several potential options, strong options there. We think one of them's been figured out with Damani, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Is it Xavier Brown? Is it Deshaun Jones? But if they can establish some depth there, this could be a really good defense. And once again, it's going to be a fun defense to watch. It's very aggressive. You're going to see some risk taking, and I think that ends up paying off.
I love that they said DD, which I love that nickname, DD. DD, look, if you want to call Deshaun Jones DD, I'll call him DD too, right? But he's saying that DD got bigger and stronger. And it's something I asked Jay Coker about on our show yesterday that you guys can go watch if you haven't seen it yet, Elephant in the Room. But I just wanted to know, to get through the SEC, you coming from the ACC, you're playing Duke, you're playing, other schools. I don't know. You don't play the schedule that you play in the SEC. I mean, I don't want to put down the ACC. I grew up a Maryland fan. So, I mean, I get it that, back when Maryland was in the ACC, that you do play Florida State and Clemson, and stuff like that. But it's not like when I came to school at Alabama and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, we're playing LSU, Auburn, Georgia. It's just not the same. So physically, to hear that Jones went out and really buffed up, I think is important, because if you've got to get through the strain of this schedule, and Kane Womack's talking about you changed your body, that's a good thing. I mean, that shows me not only are you going to be physically ready, but you're also mentally ready to make a difference.
Yeah, and I think from a body perspective for a guy like Deshaun Jones, the fact that he's gotten a little bit bigger, I think he can handle more of the boundary responsibilities. We knew he was going to play some field to the wide side of the field, but when you're playing boundary, it takes a little bit more physicality. You're asked to do a little bit more as far as, coming up and making tackles. And I think that he has the versatility now with his size to really play either. Mm-hmm. And I think that's obviously a good thing. And then, when you talk about size, that's been the big question mark for me with Red Morgan from the jump. I think he's going to be fine. He was listed at 175 pounds back in the spring. Now he's listed at 186. That seems like an 11-pound gain. That was obviously, is listed recruiting profile weight, the 175 though. So I think he was probably a little closer to 180, but it's very apparent that he's added at the bare minimum 6, 7, 8 pounds of mass. And I think that, when you watched him on A-Day, it seemed like he was a little bit light. He did get overmatched physically a little bit, and he's always around the football. Great instincts. He's kind of that scrappy defender that you want playing that Husky position. And just certain guys just seem to get it. They're ball magnets, and he's one of those players, and he makes plays in the football as well. It's just, hey, can you hold up physically like you're talking about over the course of an SEC schedule? I think he's in much better position to do that now. It's still a question mark for me with him, but he's a lot closer to contributing now as far as being able to hold up in that way, much in the same way that Malachi Moore, who was kind of in that same range. I think he was listed at like 183 his freshman year, and he ended up being a multi-game, started for most of the season, made a lot of plays. Some people would argue, at least until this past season, it was the best year that he had at Alabama, and injuries have certainly played a part in that. But Red Morgan's going to be one I'm definitely looking out for as far as how he holds up physically, but the talent's there and the willingness is certainly there too.
You talk about the defense, and because of all of the guys that left in the cornerback room, which is still crazy to me, and you've talked about Jaleel Hurley, to think that there's one guy and we don't even really get into him a whole lot. I guess the fact that it's been so quiet when it comes to Healy, it's a little worrisome, right? But you got the 2 transfers. Everybody seems to be really set on Jackson, the transfer from USC. You're hearing about Jones, and honestly, I think it was kind of a slow start for him, but now we're starting to hear about him. Outside of that, though, all the depth are these like 5-star cornerback guys. Yesterday, I'm talking about those guys with Jay Coker, and he's like, man, you love some Mbakwe. And I'm like, yeah, I do love some Mbakwe. And I said, the reason why is that you and me both played sports, and a lot of you guys hanging out on here played sports as well. There's just certain players who you put him at quarterback. You go watch Clay Chalkville. Put him at quarterback, you're going to win there. Put him at wide receiver, yeah, he's going to do that too, and you're going to win there. Put him at the DB spot, he's going to handle that, right? Put him at the cornerback spot. Put him in the secondary. Wherever you put this guy, he gets it done, man. And I just think that as a person that spent 20-some years around sports, those kind of players make you better, right? So I'm a super fan of him. All we hear about is Xavier Brown, and club or no club, how he's been great. And then another guy's name's what, Bam Bam? I mean, like, if you got a guy named Bam Bam, he's going to be great.
Yeah,
I'm talking about Mincy, by the way.
Jalen Mbakwe, man, just a different caliber of athlete. I mean, you can't really. There are athletes for like their high school teams where it's like, this is the best athlete on the field for our team, and then in most weeks it's the best athlete on the field for both teams. And then if you fill up a field full of those guys, or a 22-man football game, on the field with those guys, and then you stick Jalen Mbakwe out there, he's going to be that amongst all those players. I mean, he's a different caliber of player as far as the athleticism that he brings to the table. It was just a matter of, okay, he's played all these different positions. From a technical standpoint, how advanced can he really be at corner? How quickly can he pick everything up? And I think maybe in a Nick Saban defense that requires so much out of that position and puts such a strain on that position, I don't think Jalen Mbakwe would be nearly as close to contributing as he is in Kane Womack's defense. But what I will say is that he is way further along than I thought that he would be. I've continued to tell everybody, I feel like he's like one of those year 2 breakout guys, at the bare minimum year 3, like a Terrion Arnold last year. But I think, he's more year 2, but you're probably not going to see him a lot in year 1. Well, that might end up being the case because you do have Deshaun Jones and Damani Jackson and Xavier Brown, who was a more college-ready DB. But I think Jalen Mbakwe can help you, and he can help fill out some of that depth. And if he can get some playing time, maybe at the end of some of these games early, if Alabama's doing its job and doing what it needs to do, getting him some of those college reps, letting him put some things on tape, see some things, some different things while it's live, I think that will really help him as far as maybe his ability to help later on if there are injuries. So you have to, I feel pretty good about the cornerback room. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves and say it's going to be incredible. Alabama lost 2 first-round talents at that position. When's the last time that happened? 2 first-round corners off the same defense in the same year. And I say first round. I understand Kool-Aid went second round. He's still a first-round talent in my opinion. That's tough to replace. So it's not like I'm saying they're going to be, just fine there. There's not going to be any drop-off. I think they can do some things to kind of mask some of that inexperience early, or hopefully they can. As far as with the front seven being aggressive, putting pressure on the quarterback and then letting those guys grow a little bit. But I feel good about where that position can be by weeks, 5, 6, 7, 8, middle of the season. That can be a position that very quickly goes from maybe being, I wouldn't say a liability early, but maybe a weakness compared to some of the other spots. Mm-hmm. And it can quickly turn into a strength if certain guys come along.
Yeah. I mean, and we spend a lot of time kind of talking about what we're worried about. The other thing that we need to talk about is what we're excited about, what we're not worried about. And I guess that's kind of where I'm going to lead you right now as you guys hang out with us in the comment section. Tony, I'm with you, man. Lank. And I feel like this whole season's about Lank, Tony. I feel like this whole season is now all the naysayers. They love to everybody, and even Coach Saban. And I love Coach Saban. And maybe it's rat poison, but I'm so sick and tired of hearing about how Georgia's going to do this and Georgia's going to do that. College football changes like this. And Georgia was lucky to get by Ohio State a couple years ago. They didn't get by Alabama last year. And until they beat Alabama convincingly, where we don't lose our star wide receiver and they catch every single break, I'm not convinced that they're the best of the SEC. So that's I'm going to start there and just kind of put it out there like that. I am. I mean, I'm sorry.
That's how you really feel, brother. I love it. I love it.
Look, I respect them. I mean, I think that they're built exactly the way that Nick Saban built Alabama at the beginning. And I think Kirby does a great job. But at the same time, it's like, man, Alabama's beating you every single year that you played them. You got 1 year where you guys got to play Alabama twice in 3 games, and you caught every single break after the butt whooping you took in the SEC title game. So how it's all said, like, everybody just keep on dissing Alabama. I love it. I love this team going to the workout facility every day. I like this team showing up every single day and going, hey, they don't believe in us. And we saw that last year. I'm going to buy some fresh Lank gear just to wear on this show. All right. With that said, Clint, let me start right here. I want you to give you. We did this yesterday on the offense. I'm going to start right here. And I think this is the perfect way to start. Most underrated player on this year's defense.
You know what, Mick? I want your answer first because you're fired up, and I kind of want to see where you take this thing because I feel like we can go. I feel like you're about to drop about 5 or 6 players on us. But who would be your most underrated guy?
Man,
right now?
if I could look back at this and say, hey, man, Dede is the most underrated player on this team. Say Dede, right? If Deshaun Jones comes out and just absolutely shuts down the side of the field, we're all expecting Jackson to do that, right? But what if Dede does that? What if it's like, man, it's going to be hard for these 5 stars to get on the field because this guy comes out stronger. He's already played and been good, but changing his body. If that is the guy, then I'm really excited about it, man. So I guess I'm going to say that. But Campbell, to me, I know we were talking about him, and I don't want to say he's underrated, but boy, he was so good last year, and when he got out on the football field, and he is, essential for this team to be successful this year. So I guess my long shot would be Dede, just because that's my hope. If that's the most underrated guy on the team, you better watch out. But it's probably going to be Campbell.
Yeah, to me, I think Campbell, ceiling wise, is, has a higher ceiling than Deontay Lawson. And I think the world of Deontay Lawson. So this isn't a knock on him. I just think that highly of Campbell. I've loved him ever since he was coming out of IMG Academy and just the versatility that he had, man. I mean, I remember when On3 first revealed that he was their number 3 overall player. And I was like, I get it. I'm behind this fully. The fact that he's got that edge versatility, can play off the ball. We didn't know exactly where he would play. A lot of people thought he would end up as an on-ball player. He settled in really nicely as an off-ball guy. And now that his length out there on the edge would have been, slightly above average, but it's elite, as an off-ball linebacker being 6'3" with those long arms. So, I totally get that. Love his ceiling, man. For me, though, it would probably be Tim Keenan. I don't feel like we respect this guy enough. He's kind of the Jaden Roberts of the offense, where fans love them some Tim Keenan. They get his importance. I don't feel like on a national scale we talk enough about him. Not only is this guy an absolute rock and an absolute unit as a nose tackle in this Kane Womack defense, the fact that they have gotten bigger, all these guys have added size, but the fact that you're running a 4-2-5 defense, you got that 7th guy, that Husky position that's kind of being in the box. I understand that. So it's really a front 7, but you are playing a little bit differently. You got a lighter guy in the boxes that, a 205-pound Devontae Smith in there is that, 7th box defender. So your guys need to be able to hold up well against the run. And Tim Keenan is going to be a critical part of that. But it's not just him as a run defender, which I think, he's elite in that area. I think he's got a little bit more of some disruptive traits than maybe he's given credit for a guy his size. He's springy, man. He's an athlete. And I do think that when it comes to, the NFL, I don't know how highly regarded he'll be, but I do think he ends up getting drafted, at the bare minimum, like a 4th, an early day 3 kind of pick, maybe a late day 2. And I think he ends up playing in the NFL for a very long time. I think he's a really good player. If I had to, make another choice, I probably would say Smitty, Devontae Smith at that Husky position. We talk a lot about all these other guys, but I'm a big fan of what Devontae Smith can bring to the table. Very high energy player, very physical, and he's kind of grown into his body a little bit. And I think he's going to play a very important role, man, in that Husky position in Kane Womack's defense.
Yeah, good to see you guys in the comments section. Even our troll friends from other schools. It's great to see you guys. We'll get to you in a second as we talk about the program with 18 national championships. What was that last year? That SEC title, was that number 29? Southern Red, good to see you. Was that number 29? Hayden says Jaheim Otis, Tim Smith. I like both of those guys. I
All
almost
those
said
interior
Otis,
guys.
but I don't feel like Otis is. To me, Otis has been a contributor for a while, man. He's just he's like the Mount Cody of this team to me.
I think what happened is, okay, this is what happens in fantasy football a lot. You'll get a guy that gets drafted really high. That player disappoints, maybe because of, he's banged up the entire year. Maybe the system wasn't great. They end up firing their coach, bringing somebody else in. But there's like this post-hype hangover with that player where they can't really get past the fact that they didn't live up to expectations. Well, to me, that's Jaheim Otis. I mean, last year, and it was injury related. He had a lower body injury. It was clear he was on a pitch count for pretty much the entire year. At a certain point, it feels like he wasn't even reaching. He was barely playing over 20 snaps a game. He was hindered. He was not 100%. So there was all this hype. I was part of that going into last year, and then he failed to live up to expectations. So kind of everybody now has kind of forgotten about him. And, I'm just here to tell you, he's still that same guy. I think he's put on a little bit more weight now that he's 325 compared to being down there around 300. I think he goes from being a, decent athlete at 300 pounds to being an exceptional athlete at 325, a rare athlete at that size. So I think he's going to add to this rotation as well. And so I will say from that perspective, picking Otis, I can agree that he would probably fall in the underrated category too.
All right. Second top freshman. Let me go first on this one. I didn't even do it
first
yesterday,
on all of them.
You know what it is. You know what it is. It's Jalen Mbakwe, man. Nobody's talking about Jalen Mbakwe. We don't even know if he's going to get on the field. He's not like, we're like, okay, we're talking about Xavier Brown, right? We're not talking about Jalen Mbakwe. It's a long season. And I think that at some point, this guy's going to turn the corner. There's going to be an injury. Maybe we're playing against Tennessee and it's a 30-point win and we just slide him in the game. Something happens. And when you play teams that you've beaten 16 out of 17 years, like you get a lot of players in the game. And I'm messing with you, Tennessee toes tall. But I don't know. let me put him up there. I love you guys being here. You know it. But you're going to get it when you get in this comment section and start trying to throw some shade on my Tide, baby. But no, I just feel like, and we just talked about it, I just feel like this guy at some point is going to be on the field and he's going to make things happen on that defense.
I'm going to tell you, Mick, if Deshaun Jones ends up being the most underrated player on this defense and Jalen Mbakwe ends up being the top freshman, you're getting a lot more than a participation trophy. All right. We're building you a statue because those are some epic calls because there feels like some easier answers, but I love how you're not. I did this last year with Justice Haynes. I'm not going to lie. I called my shot. I said he was going to be the offensive MVP last year. And he was the, fourth string running back that barely played into the Rose Bowl. So I will tell you, it can't work out that way, brother. But if you call your shot and you hit it, you're a legend forever. I am going to go with Xavier Brown. I learned my lesson last year. I took a bunch of shots and I missed on a lot of them. I do feel, and then granted, what's interesting is if you would have talked about this post spring, right after spring, probably a lot of people would have went with someone like Red Morgan. And I do like Red a lot, and I do think he's going to contribute. But I think that the fact that you do have Devontae Smith, and it looks like he's going to end up being the starter, I'm sure you'll probably see some rotation, but how much? That might cat Red Morgan's ability to really make a consistent impact throughout the year. If Xavier Brown does end up winning that other job opposite Damani Jackson, I think he's got a lot of talent. He is going to suffer some growing pains. I mean, there's probably going to be a point, sometime in the first few weeks where, miscommunication or bust or whatever, and fans are upset with him. He's giving up a touchdown. It's the end of the world. They did it with Kool-Aid when he was a freshman. They did it with Tyrion Arnold when he was a redshirt freshman. And so that's just, you got to understand these type of things happen. Tyrion had to go through it. Kool-Aid had to go through it. And more than likely, Xavier Brown's going to have to go through some of it. But I think by the end of the year, when you're talking about, man, this guy has really improved. If he's a day one, game one starter, that's something that Kool-Aid didn't have the luxury of being. Tyrion was kind of battling it out with Eli Ricks and Kyrie Jackson and some of those guys. So he wasn't a consistent starter. So I think by the end of 2024, if Xavier Brown ends up being, an every game starter, I think he's already going to be starting to show flashes of being that, potentially elite caliber player by the end of this season. He ends up being the top freshman.
Guys, thanks for hanging out with us on here. Good to see our compadre there, Stacy Blackwood. He's done some great stuff on the Cover Crimson website. We're on there all the time on that message board, and he's been nothing but fantastic. I love reading his stuff, and you guys will as well. You can sign up and join us on there for all the stuff that we got coming, and we got some big things we're working on right now. I mean, I can't reveal too much, but I can tell you that for $1, you can find out. And if you do the annual subscription, you get the Cover Crimson T-shirt, which I've got mine. I didn't wear it today, but I think I might slide it on tomorrow. I love that thing. It's so comfortable. It looks cool. We'll have it to you as quick as you sign up. But thank you for being part of what we're doing. I know you have a lot of options on what you want to do with your time and your money, and for hanging out with us here. If you got the money, we'd love for you to be a part of covercrimson.com, and always welcome here on the YouTube channel. But thank you to everyone that's been a part of making this possible. And that's how we have great talent like Stacy, like Clint. We got a show with Mike Johnson coming up. I was talking to him this morning about it. Like we're about to drop the two-time All-American and the 2009 national champion on you guys. We got Jake Coker. I mean, you talk about an unsung hero. This guy's a national championship quarterback. You don't hear him anywhere else, but he's here, right? It's because it's not just about football. It's also about having a good time here and hanging out with you guys. So again, covercrimson.com, and thank you for being a part of everything that we're doing and, making this a success. So anyway, all right. He got his shirt yesterday. Cause it is fire. Love those shirts.
I do too.
Yeah. All right, Clint, let me change gears back to what we were talking about. So we did our most underrated. We did our top freshman. Now it's time for our breakout player. It's our breakout guy, the guy that like at the end of the season, I felt like maybe that was Chris Braswell last year, like by the end of the season, what was it? Deion Branch, like a couple years ago, like every time you turn around, like there's Branch in the backfield. There's like 5 branches. Like it's a whole tree of guys, like he's just everywhere. Who's that guy going to be? You go first this time. Who's that guy going to be for you?
I mean, mine's pretty simple, and granted, he's generating enough buzz on his own that I don't have to say a word about him. And everybody knows, everybody's hyping him up now. But LT Overton, man, I mean, this is a cat that I don't even know if he ends up being in the starting lineup. He might not be, but I don't care. Even if he's a rotational piece, I think he's going to be getting rotated in the right moments, and I think he's going to end up making a major impact for this defense. Whether it be, getting sacks or whether it be just simply applying pressure on the quarterback, taking pressure off of that secondary. I'm a huge fan of LT Overton, the versatility that he provides. We talk about versatility so much when it comes to, a lot of these guys, and there's a reason for that. It's a very versatile defense. You can get in and out of a lot of different looks. The fact that you kind of are in that 4-2-5, you got that one edge player, the Wolf. You can bring that Husky down and kind of create like a 3-4 look in certain, situations. The fact that you can get, more in like a 3-3-5 look very quickly, drop that Wolf off the line of scrimmage. Very versatile type of defense that needs versatility. And I think LT Overton can do a lot of that for this defense. So I can't wait to see him in his first season in Tuscaloosa.
Well, that's a great synopsis, but the answer is Keon Sapp, and that, Clint. This guy came from Michigan, and that was the guy that they lost. That they were like, "You got to be kidding me! Like you're transferring after our first national championship ever, and we beat Alabama, and we won it all." And he was the guy that they're like, "Hey, please don't go." And then he comes to Alabama. You lose a good one, and Downs. But what's everyone saying? What are you hearing? What are your people telling you? This guy's damn good. That's what you keep hearing. I mean, Kane Womack said that in his press conference. It's like, well, transfers, like this guy's making plays. This guy's going to make plays, man. Sapp is going to be a baller. I think he's going to have interceptions. I think he's going to be a lot better against the run than people think. He's the guy that can make all of us forget about the guy that transferred to Georgia and then transferred to Ohio State, or maybe was going to transfer to Georgia, but ended up at Ohio State. However that went down. I really like him.
Yeah. I love, this is the way I've kind of put it to people when it comes to Alabama safety room. I think Caleb Downs went through freshman struggles. I mean, he had one of the best freshman seasons of any Alabama defensive back, or really any Alabama defensive player that I can remember, but he was not above, some cover bust. I mean, even against Michigan, there were some situations where, and I wouldn't say he was a liability, but he was the reason for some of Michigan's success in some pretty key moments. But, I will say, to me, out of the last 2 years, the best safety that Alabama has had was Caleb Downs. Yeah, I think he's better than Malachi Moore, better than Keon Sabb, better than Jalen Key. But I think the combination of Malachi Moore and Keon Sabb is going to be better than the combination of Jalen Key and Caleb Downs, especially Caleb Downs as a freshman. So I think you're going to get better, more steady play out of your two safety spots that you did last year. And I think that's going to be pretty critical. And, as to what Stacy said about Sabb, I mean, I've kind of been saying the same exact thing. I mean, I think he is going to lead, if I had to put a prediction out there, I think he's going to lead the team in interceptions. Why? He's currently playing that kind of rover role that I think that he is. I mean, maybe I end up being wrong and he's your single high free safety. But I think based off of what I've seen, that's going to be Malachi Moore. Keon Sabb's going to be more of your rover, playing a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. When you looked at Kane Womack's defense, he had a Husky lead as, defense and interceptions, and he had a rover the last couple of years. Your safety, kind of your versatile defensive backs that are playing closer to the line of scrimmage in this vision-oriented defense, there's a lot of opportunities there, and I think Keon Sabb's got phenomenal ball skills, great as far as, being kind of a rangy defender, can do a lot of different things for you. So I think he ends up leading the team in interceptions as well, if I had to guess. And I think that's going to be massive for Alabama's defense.
I got to give Chris a lot of credit. I mean, he's over here with the War Eagle machine, and for every player that we're talking about at Alabama, he's adding who he thinks against these are Auburn guys. Hey, man, thanks for hanging with us. I don't even know who these guys are because, you guys weren't too good last year, but pretty fun.
Several years.
Throw it in there. Yeah, throw it in there, though. I love it. Thank you for being here. Yeah, Kate, I'll put it up there for you. Yeah, going to have a breakout year. All right, final one here, and I'll start it off for us. The MVP of the defense. We did the offense yesterday. We're doing the defense today. And I'm going to take the guy that's obviously going to be the MVP. And it's all about health because he's got talent. He's got the brain. He's got the position to be able to get in there. I mean, his position really helps him to be the guy that's all over the place. And I'm talking about Deontay Lawson, right? You're talking about a super talent guy. All he's got to do is just be healthy. I mean, every time he's been healthy, he's been a hell of a player. And this is a guy he wants to get to the NFL. He wants to get drafted. It's a little harder for guys that have been around for a while, like senior guys. But I feel like that he's a huge part of this team, helped everybody, stays a leader on the defense. And it's look, your fingers crossed that he doesn't get hurt, but if he doesn't, I think he's going to be the MVP.
You 100% nailed that one. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Very scheme versatile player. I think when Alabama was more based in 3-4 principles, I think he can do that. I think, 4-3 defense on the NFL level, playing some nickel 4-2-5 like Alabama's going to be doing, certainly can do that. Just a guy, very good athlete, got a lot of fluidity. Great, tackle to tackle kind of box defender, but he's also got that sideline to sideline range that you look for at the position. Like you mentioned, great football IQ. I really have been impressed with his ability to be an effective off-ball blitzer. I think the timing on his blitzes coming out of high school, I knew he had athleticism. I knew he had upside as a run defender. Played with physicality, did all that stuff, but just being an off-ball blitzer and adding that wrinkle or that element, I thought, I didn't really see it too much in high school. I think he's developed really nicely on that front, and I think that's really helped Alabama's defense, and it's helped his projection as far as the NFL. The injuries might hold him down a little bit, when it comes to draft stock, but, I think that he is one of the best linebackers in college football, and if he can stay healthy, and that you mentioned that, I think that's going to be absolutely huge as far as, Alabama's defense maintaining that depth and, having your field general on defense or one of your two field generals on defense for the entire season will be absolutely huge. Tackling machine, does it all, got the, cover range that you look for. Very fun player. I think he's going to be really good for Alabama too.
Guys, I love this question, Glenn. I think we should both do this. I mean, what is this, our 14th show together? Maybe you guys don't don't know us yet, asking about Clint's qualifications. And I probably should give you mine too. I don't remember if we've done that here. But Clint, I'll go first. I'll tell you guys about me in case this is the first time you've hung out with us. I went to Alabama. I was there back when Gene Stallings was head coach my first year. And then my first game was the 96 Iron Bowl. We beat Auburn 24-23. Sorry about that, Chris, in the comment section. But that was Freddie Kitchens to Dennis Riddle. And then from that point on, I was sold about the Iron Bowl being the greatest sporting extravaganza in the world, right? But I graduated from Alabama. I was the sports director at WVUA. When I was there, I took over, kind of went in a little heavy-handed. I wanted to compete with Syracuse because I'd gotten into school there and didn't have the money to go. And I wanted to be a sports broadcaster, and I wanted us to have the best sports department in the country. We won a bunch of national awards, and a lot of the guys that I worked with have gone on to have really great sports broadcasting careers, and I've had success too. So I attribute a lot of that to WVUA radio in Tuscaloosa. But anyway, I got into professional baseball. I still do that. And then came back, worked for the Crimson Tide Sports Network, baseball, women's basketball for a while. Then SEC Network, broadcasted some games on TV for them. Then worked for Tide Radio in Tuscaloosa. Then started my own thing, the Bama Tailgate Show, and you guys know about that. We'll be in Tuscaloosa Friday now that Jake Coker's part of the team. You may get a Clint Lamb appearance. But, kind of I'd say like almost like a sister to or brother, however you want to look at it, to Cover Crimson. We definitely want to stay involved with both of those. And now I'm here with Cover Crimson. So it's been a long ride of Alabama, and thanks for asking.
Yeah, I don't feel like my story is nearly as interesting as yours. I didn't go to Alabama. I'm one of those. I wanted to keep playing football after high school, and I had the opportunity. What's interesting, Chris, Hugh Freeze was actually the head coach at Lambeth when I was a senior, and he's the one that offered me a scholarship. Me and my parents sat in his office for probably 45 minutes to an hour. And I will say, when you talk to him in person, I liked him, and I still respect him to this day. Obviously don't know a lot of the history, couldn't speak one way or the other. That is what that is. I don't speak on things I don't know anything about. But
Coker said the same thing, by the way. He also got a Hugh Freeze scholarship.
His, I'm sure wasn't Lambeth, if I had to guess.
No, I think it was, where was he in Arkansas?
Arkansas State. Yeah,
I think it was Arkansas State. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a little bit bigger than Lambeth is no longer a thing. Actually, where I ended up playing for a year, Birmingham Southern's no longer a thing too. So I don't know what it was about that, but I'd originally planned to, hang it up at BSC, transfer to Alabama. I got accepted to walk on. They even sent me the workout book and everything. And then, a decision I regret to this day, but a female came in the way of that. Apparently moving 45 minutes away was not acceptable. And I was young and stupid and decided that sticking around at even though I loved my time at BSC, I was in a fraternity. My brother went there. We were fraternity brothers. We had a great time, but ended up covering Alabama. Really, I started off, your typical 9-to-5 thing, work for an insurance broker, but I just never lost the passion for Alabama. Never lost the passion for college football. And I just started covering the sport kind of for free. Worked for Saturday Down South, SEC Country for a while. Ended up being able to cover Alabama exclusively for Roll Tidewire, and then eventually got on with Bama Online or On 3, I guess. I went through that entire
me too.
Alabama, Bama On 3, Bama Insider, and Bama Online. I had a lot of names the last few years.
I forgot about that.
And now, I will say, man, I've had a blast at every stop, but doing this with you, man, I don't think I've ever had this much fun on a day-to-day basis. I'm super passionate about getting up every morning and kind of tackling the days with you. And I'm just happy to be here, man.
Yeah, same thing, man. Same thing. Glenn's been a Bama fan for 55 years. We love hanging out with you guys, even our Tennessee and Auburn friends, whatever. This is what college football is all about, is getting together and kind of just cutting it up a little bit, chopping it and talking and having a good time doing it. And we also have to say we appreciate MyBookie for putting this together. MyBookie is our title sponsor. And if you use the promo code next round, you get a double on your initial deposit. That's right. MyBookie will double your initial deposit when you use the code next round. Kick off the season the right way, mybookie.ag, and double your initial deposit using the code next round. And it's been absolutely a blast getting together with you guys every day. And so we like it so much, we're going to do it again tomorrow. 1 o'clock work for you, Clint?
Yes, absolutely. And we're getting closer to game time, man. And I just, it's time to start diving into some of these X's and O's and looking at some of these opponents. And, we'll see where the day takes us tomorrow, man. This has been fun.
Hey, guys, thanks for hanging with us. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. The other thing I want to remind you is that, this show it was supposed to be a half hour. Really supposed to be 25 minutes. And then we get on here and start chopping it up with you guys. And we're like, all right, we're just going to stay. But if you want to hang out with us, even after the show's over, the way to do that is cover Crimson and take advantage of that. It's $1 right now to sign up. We got a lot of great content. There's going to be some exclusive shows that eventually will be on there as well. But we're launching this thing for you guys, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate all of you guys for being a part of what we do. So for Clint Lamb, I'm Mick Gillispie. We'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. Now, there's other great programs coming up on the channel, so make sure that you hit the bell so you know when we're live or when we're dropping new content. Roll Tide, everybody.